Somewhere out there, a man made millions selling rocks. Another implanted goat testicles into people as medicine. And one guy? He sold the Brooklyn Bridge multiple times with receipts. This isn't fiction, this is real history. Just the dumbest, weirdest, most face-palming parts of it. These are 33 scams so ridiculous you'll laugh, wince, and probably question your own credit card history. Let's go. 1. Imagine buying the Brooklyn Bridge. Not a timeshare, the actual bridge. Now picture doing it with a receipt from a charmer named George C. Parker, the undisputed heavyweight champion of con artists. His specialty? Selling New York City landmarks to gullible tourists like they were cheap souvenirs. The bridge itself? Sold dozens of times. The Statue of Liberty? Practically given away. Madison Square Garden? Yours for a firm handshake and a wad of cash. Some buyers, bless their hearts, even tried setting up toll booths on public property before police gently informed them, "Sir, you own precisely 0% of this structure." If sheer, unadulterated audacity was a stock, George would have made Elon Musk look like a small-time street vendor. His confidence was truly next level, an art form. 2. Dr. John Brinkley, a visionary or a menace depending on your pain tolerance, gazed upon a goat, then a man, and had a medical epiphany that surely violated several laws of nature and good taste. His revolutionary treatment for impotence? Surgically implanting goat testicles into human scrotums. Because the 1920s were apparently a free-for-all carnival of quackery and questionable life choices, people actually lined up for this. He became fabulously wealthy, bought a radio station to broadcast his genius, and ran for governor. Twice. Let that sink in. A man inserting goat gonads into people nearly governed a state. Never mind infections or the Grim Reaper knocking. Folks swore they felt younger, possibly from the sheer terror of having barnyard anatomy stitched to their person. Pure madness. 3. The pet rock wasn't some clever metaphor for modern alienation. It was quite literally a rock. A smooth, ordinary stone nestled in a cardboard box complete with air holes, as if it might suffocate from its own geological inertia. In 1975, a marketing genius named Gary Dahl wagered that the public was collectively bored enough to purchase inanimate objects as companions, and the public promptly responded, "Here, take all our money." Each rock came with a meticulously crafted training manual, detailing its non-existent needs and 0 personality traits. Dahl became a millionaire overnight, all for selling stones he likely picked up from a beach. Somewhere, a caveman who actually used rocks for survival is spinning in his shallow grave, utterly baffled by capitalism and its wonders. 4. Gregor McGregor, a Scotsman with more audacity than a cartload of monkeys attempting brain surgery, didn't just sell a bridge. He sold an entire fictional Central American paradise called Poyais. Imagine this. The 1820s, no internet, and this dude waltzes into London with forged maps, fake Poyasian currency he probably printed in his basement, and tales of a land flowing with gold, friendly natives, and suspiciously advanced infrastructure. Hundreds of Brits, bless their colonial-era optimism, liquidated their assets, bought Poyasian government bonds, from McGregor, of course, and sailed off to this tropical utopia. What they found wasn't El Dorado. It was a mosquito-infested, disease-ridden swamp with precisely 0 of the promised amenities. Many perished, heartbroken and bewildered. McGregor? He'd already cashed out, probably commissioning a new, even more flamboyant wig. Selling a country? That's next-level scamming, folks. Pure, diabolical genius mixed with absolute sociopathy. 5. Charles Ponzi, the maestro whose name became synonymous with financial fraud, didn't kick off his legendary career with cryptocurrency schemes or luxury yacht rentals. Oh no, he started with something far more mundane: postage stamps. His supposedly brilliant plan involved buying discounted postal coupons in Europe and redeeming them for a tidy profit in America. This worked for approximately 5 seconds before he pivoted to the timeless strategy of paying off early investors with money swindled from new, unsuspecting victims. People, blinded by greed, rarely asked inconvenient questions. Why would they, when he promised an outlandish 50% profit in a mere 45 days? By the time his house of cards inevitably collapsed, he'd pocketed millions, shattered countless lives, and bequeathed a legacy so profoundly dumb, it's still being emulated today with depressing regularity. 6. In the year 1835, the New York Sun newspaper unleashed what might be the most gloriously outlandish fake news story ever printed. A true masterpiece of journalistic malpractice. They breathlessly reported that scientists had discovered life on the moon. And we're not talking about some boring microbes here. Oh no, this was primetime lunar life. Intelligent bat people, majestic unicorns, shimmering pyramids, and giant, industrious beavers, all allegedly observed through a revolutionary new telescope located in South Africa. Americans, ever eager for a good story, devoured it. Newspaper sales skyrocketed. Even esteemed Harvard scientists were reportedly nodding along, thinking, well, that sounds plausible. It took weeks of fevered speculation before the public realized it was all pure, unadulterated nonsense, concocted by a writer who just wanted to pull a colossal prank on the entire world. And it worked beautifully. 7. Clark Stanley wasn't just a seller of snake oil. He practically invented the term, becoming the P.T. Barnum of bogus bombs. At the 1893 World's Fair, this charismatic cowboy-turned-huckster put on a captivating show, publicly boiling rattlesnakes live on stage and then bottling the resulting juice as a miracle elixir. He boldly claimed his concoction could cure everything from nagging arthritis to embarrassing hair loss, and probably your Monday morning blues too. Spoiler alert, laboratory tests later revealed his potent tonic was about as reptilian as a rubber chicken. It contained mostly beef fat, a dash of chili oil for that authentic tingle, some turpentine, and perhaps a generous helping of pure, unadulterated regret for the buyer. But the man sold thousands of bottles, proving that a good performance can always trump a non-existent product. He was basically a 19th century wellness influencer. 8. The Fox sisters, a pair of mischievous teenagers, discovered they could crack their toe joints with an impressively loud and unsettling sound. That was it. That was the entire supernatural phenomenon. But in 1848, in a world hungry for mystery, they convinced their credulous neighbors that these creaks and pops were actually coded messages from the spirit world. One knock for yes, two for no, they'd declare, and suddenly America was hooked, saying, "Ghosts are talking through your feet? Tell us more." They became national celebrities, sparking the entire spiritualism movement, seances, Ouija boards, glowing ectoplasm, the whole shebang, all originating from two girls and their remarkably flexible foot bones. Even when they later confessed it was all a hoax, many devotees refused to believe them, because apparently the allure of chatty ghosts trumps mundane reality every single time. 9. Victor Lustig wasn't just any con man. He was the kind of audacious scammer who'd try to sell ice to Eskimos and probably succeed. His most legendary feat? He scammed Al Capone. Yes, that Al Capone, the ruthless gangster who famously fed his enemies to piranhas and had FBI agents for breakfast. Lustig approached Capone with a surefire investment, took a hefty 50 grand from him, then stashed the cash in a hotel safe for 2 long months. Afterwards, he returned the money to Capone, feigning disappointment and saying, "Sorry, Al, the deal fell through, but here's your money back in full." Capone, utterly stunned by this apparent display of honesty from a known con artist, decided Lustig was a man of integrity and later entrusted him with even more money, which Lustig, true to form, promptly stole. This man conned Scarface with nothing but fake dignity and a perfectly sculpted mustache. 10. William 520%. Miller, a name that should have immediately set off alarm bells for anyone with basic math skills, promised his eager investors an eye-watering 10% return every single week. That's a mind-boggling 520% per year. You'd think sensible people would pause and think, perhaps that's mathematically, physically, and morally impossible? They did not. Instead, they practically formed a conga line to his office. In 1899, Brooklyn was essentially one giant, gleeful Ponzi parade, all thanks to Miller. He even rented an entire building just to stack the incoming cash in impressively ostentatious and ultimately stupid ways. Some early investors naturally made a quick buck, which only served as bait to lure in even more suckers. Eventually, the inevitable financial implosion occurred. Miller was arrested, and people were left scratching their heads, wondering, wait, why doesn't everyone get rich this fast? Because it's a lie, Barbara. That's why. (11) Barry Minkow, a name synonymous with youthful audacity and colossal fraud, was a mere teenager when he constructed a multi-million-dollar carpet-cleaning empire, Zez's best, built entirely on a foundation of audacious lies. He forged countless documents, fabricated insurance claims that would make Hollywood scriptwriters blush, and even created entire fake office buildings just to impress gullible investors and stern-faced auditors. This kid made the infamous Enron scandal look like a poorly planned bake sale. The truly mind-bending twist? He orchestrated this massive financial charade all before he could legally buy a beer, somewhere between enduring high school gym class and battling teenage acne. Eventually, his house of cards collapsed spectacularly, but hey, he got a book deal and a movie out of it. America, it seems, loves a charismatic scammer, especially one who smiles charmingly for the cameras while being led away in handcuffs. 12. Oscar Hartzell, a con artist with a flair for the dramatic and a deep understanding of human vanity, managed to convince thousands of ordinary Americans that they were the direct descendants of the legendary Sir Francis Drake, the famed English explorer and privateer. According to Hartzell's elaborate tale, the British government owed these newfound heirs a colossal multi-billion-dollar inheritance. All he needed from each claimant was a series of small legal fees to help unlock this vast imaginary fortune. People, entranced by the prospect of nobility and riches, sent him money for years. They formed exclusive Drake family clubs, held regular meetings, and proudly wore custom-made crests. One woman reportedly spent her entire life savings chasing this phantom inheritance because, as she put it, she felt royal. Spoiler alert, there was no treasure. There was no ancient estate. There was no noble bloodline. Just a dude in Iowa, probably laughing himself silly in a very expensive suit. 13. In the glorious, unregulated heyday of mail-order madness, when you could seemingly buy anything through the post, one scam shone brighter and dumber than all the rest, selling plots of land on the moon. Yes, you heard that right, the actual moon. A visionary opportunist named Dennis Hope gazed up at the night sky one day, had an epiphany, and decided, you know what? Nobody officially owns that. He then promptly filed an entirely bogus claim of ownership with any agency that would listen or not listen, and began printing impressive-looking deeds for lunar real estate. Tens of thousands of people, bless their optimistic hearts, eagerly bought these slices of the moon. Some gifted them romantically, others framed their certificates with pride, believing they owned a piece of the cosmos. They didn't. NASA, it turns out, does not recognize your lunar condo, Kevin. But the scam, incredibly, still persists because some people just love owning things they'll never ever visit. 14. During the Roaring '20s, Florida wasn't just the land of sunshine, oranges, and burgeoning tourism. It was also the undisputed global capital of deeply questionable real estate deals, a veritable swamp of speculative scams. Vast tracts of uninhabitable swampland were aggressively marketed to unsuspecting northerners as tropical paradise or exclusive waterfront property. Some of these so-called lots were quite literally underwater for most of the year, perfect if you were a family of ambitious alligators. People in chilly Chicago or bustling New York would gaze at glossy brochures depicting swaying palm trees and pristine beaches, only to discover upon arrival that they'd purchased a gator-infested puddle. Developers even built entire fake towns for prospective buyer tours, complete with hired actors posing as happy residents, jaunty music, and complimentary, possibly drugged sandwiches. When the market inevitably crashed, Florida was left with shattered dreams, countless empty lots, and a very confused heron standing where someone's dream living room was supposed to be. 15. Miss Cleo, the iconic television psychic, materialized on late-night TV screens across America, complete with a thick, theatrical Jamaican accent, a mystical deck of tarot cards, and psychic energy purportedly so potent she could peer directly into your soul, or more accurately, your wallet. "Call me now," she'd implore with an air of urgent cosmic wisdom. Millions did, desperate for answers about love, money, or why their toaster kept burning everything. What they actually got was a team of decidedly non-psychic, probably bored, phone operators reading from pre-written scripts and diligently charging an eye-watering $4.99 per minute for the privilege. Spoiler alert, the real Uri Harris, the woman behind Miss Cleo, was born in Los Angeles. Not Jamaican, not psychic, just a brilliantly convincing actress wrapped in a colorful headscarf. The multi-million-dollar scam eventually got shut down, but let's be brutally honest. If you were calling a 1-900 number for profound life advice, that $4.989 was probably a lesson well learned. 16. John Keeley, a man with a fantastic imagination and even better sales patter, invented a supposed free energy machine in the late 1800s that he claimed ran on something he called etheric force. In scientific terms, etheric force translates roughly to complete and utter balderdash. But Keeley was a showman. He gave elaborate, captivating demonstrations, utilized an array of mysterious-looking pipes and gauges, and ensured his machine produced loud, impressive humming noises, which apparently was all the proof wealthy investors needed to throw vast piles of cash his way. For an astonishing 26 years, he successfully scammed some of the richest men of his era with a device that resembled a steampunk espresso maker that had overdosed on ambition. It turns out the contraption was ingeniously powered by a cleverly hidden motor and an inexhaustible supply of his own audacious lies. When he finally died, engineers inspected it and basically said, "Oh, it's just some plumbing and pure vibes." 17. The Cardiff Giant was an archaeological sensation that wasn't. A colossal 10-foot-tall petrified man, supposedly unearthed on a humble farm in Cardiff, New York in 1869. The farmer who discovered it claimed it was an ancient fossilized giant, a relic from a bygone era. Naturally, people freaked out. Scientists engaged in heated debates about its origins. Thousands flocked to the site, eagerly paying for a glimpse of this prehistoric marvel. Then, the rather inconvenient truth emerged. It was actually a giant statue, meticulously carved from gypsum, artificially aged, and then secretly buried on the farm a full year earlier, all part of an elaborate hoax by the farm's owner, George Hull. Even better, the legendary showman P.T. Barnum tried to buy the original giant, was rebuffed, and then promptly commissioned his own fake giant, brazenly claiming his was the real one and denouncing the original as a fraud. So now we had a fake of a fake being called a fake by a master faker. Truly a meta-hoax masterpiece of epic proportions. 18. Step aside, reality TV. Because in 1817, a young woman named Mary Baker, later known as the exotic Princess Caribou, staged the most bizarre social experiment, or perhaps just a desperate bid to escape dreary Devon life. She wandered into an English village speaking utter gibberish, dressed in outlandish clothes, and hinted at being shipwrecked royalty from a mysterious eastern island. The local gentry, starved for excitement and eager to show off their worldly sophistication, absolutely lapped it up. They housed her, fed her, paraded her at parties, and had experts try to decipher her language, which probably consisted of her making funny faces and noises she learned from farm animals. For 10 glorious weeks, she lived like a queen, baffling scholars and charming high society. When a former employer recognized her, the jig was up. But honestly, tricking a bunch of pompous aristocrats into believing you're a pineapple-worshipping princess from Javasu, that's not just a scam, it's performance art of the highest caliber. 19. In the bustling financial world of 1904, two cunning individuals named Adams and Arnold executed the audacious Great Wall Street Gold hoax. Their ingenious plan involved bribing malleable newspaper reporters to publish entirely fabricated news articles. These articles sensationally claimed that the U.S. Treasury had secretly initiated a massive gold purchasing program, a move designed to artificially inflate gold prices. Unsuspecting investors, gripped by gold fever, went absolutely wild. Gold prices surged dramatically as predicted. And while the rest of the world was losing its collective financial mind, Adams and Arnold coolly and quietly sold off their own substantial gold holdings at the peak of the manufactured frenzy, making a fortune. When the truth inevitably surfaced, Wall Street felt profoundly and personally victimized. Congress was, predictably, furious. But you just know deep down, someone in a smoke-filled backroom whispered, "Damn, that was slick as hell." 20. A completely fictitious artist named Bruno Hatt improbably became the celebrated toast of London's discerning art scene in 1929, lauded for his revolutionary genius. Except Bruno didn't exist. He was the brilliant satirical creation of a group of mischievous, aristocratic pranksters, a circle that notably included the renowned writer Evelyn Waugh. They deliberately produced some truly awful amateurish paintings, slapped on an exotic-sounding foreign name, and boldly staged a gallery show. To their immense amusement, esteemed art critics lavished praise on Bruno's raw, untamed genius and his profound emotional depth. One particularly enthusiastic critic declared that the pieces screamed with tormented geometry. That tormented geometry? Literally just some haphazard triangles doodled during a rather dull tea time. The elaborate prank was eventually revealed in a sensational newspaper expose, and the pretentious art world arguably hasn't emotionally recovered since that day. 21. During World War I, when tensions were arguably quite high, writer Virginia Woolf, her brother Adrian, and a mischievous posse of pals decided the British military needed a dose of utter chaos. Their master plan? The Dreadnought hoax. They donned elaborate costumes involving blackface, outrageously fake beards, and majestic turbans, proclaiming themselves to be Abyssinian royalty. The esteemed Royal Navy, bless their formal hats, welcomed these dignitaries aboard the HMS Dreadnought with full military honors, a guided tour, and a band enthusiastically playing the national anthem of a country that existed only in their imaginations. The pranksters communicated in enthusiastic gibberish and saluted with the grace of startled flamingos. The Navy only clued in after the glorious stunt hit the newspapers, then hilariously tried to arrest them, presumably for excessive fabulousness and making them look silly. 22. Lou Pearlman, the Svengali behind saccharine pop sensations like NSYNC and the Backstreet Boys, wasn't just minting boy bands, he was also orchestrating one of the longest-running and most audacious Ponzi schemes in music history. While producing chart-topping hits and cultivating legions of screaming teenage fans, he simultaneously ran a completely bogus investment company. This phantom enterprise conned elderly retirees, naive dreamers, and even his own band members out of an estimated $500 million. He expertly faked bank records, invented entire phantom airlines to bolster his fake credibility, and shamelessly used photographs of random private jets as proof of his immense non-existent assets. It was as if Simon Cowell had decided to moonlight as the Wolf of Wall Street, but with significantly more frosted hair tips. When it all inevitably crashed and burned, the music may have stopped, but the sheer, unadulterated cringe factor? That, my friends, is eternal. 23. Gaylord Wilshire, yes, the very same real estate magnate for whom Los Angeles' famed Wilshire Boulevard is named, once embarked on a bizarre quest to cure every disease known to humankind using a belt. But this wasn't just any ordinary belt, mind you. This was the Iona-CO electric belt, a miraculous contraption which, according to his wildly optimistic advertisements, magnetized your blood. It promised to cure everything from persistent headaches and chronic back pain to failing eyesight, perpetually bad moods, and probably even your deeply disappointing marriage. The device itself looked like something Batman's significantly less cool and slightly sad uncle might wear on a particularly off day. Thousands of people, desperate for relief or perhaps just incredibly gullible, bought it, wore it religiously, and swore it worked wonders. Of course it didn't. It was merely copper wire, some padding, and a whole lot of shameless marketing hype. 24. There existed a peculiar era in American history when normally sensible people thought it was a perfectly reasonable idea to invest their hard-earned money in a completely non-existent, fantastically wealthy estate supposedly located in Philadelphia. The infamous Baker estate hoax managed to persist for over a century, successfully convincing tens of thousands of hopeful individuals that they were legitimate heirs to a mythical, colossal fortune. This fortune was allegedly left behind by a man who, spoiler alert, didn't actually leave jack squat to anyone. People held enthusiastic family reunions, diligently signed petitions, formed dedicated committees to pursue their claims, and collectively sent vast sums of money, lots and lots of it, to so-called lawyers who consistently promised they were this close to unlocking the imaginary treasure. Generation after generation fell for this enduring delusion, a testament to hope. 25. In the early 1900s, American towns plagued by severe, crop-destroying droughts were often so utterly desperate for rain, they resorted to hiring self-proclaimed rainmakers. These were typically charismatic men who confidently claimed they could summon torrential downpours using secret, often theatrical, scientific-sounding methods. One of the most famous, or infamous, of these weather wizards was Charles Hatfield. His technique involved mixing a mysterious concoction of chemicals in giant, ominous-looking barrels and then patiently waiting for the clouds to gather and weep. Sometimes, coincidentally, it rained. Sometimes, unsurprisingly, it didn't. On one particularly memorable occasion in San Diego, it rained so catastrophically hard after his efforts that a dam broke, tragically leading to 20 deaths. And the city, in a bizarre twist, sued him not for failing to make rain, but for making far too much of it. A true meteorological marvel. 26. Forget Barry the Bizarre from Brooklyn. Allow me to introduce Emulex Hoax Boy, a 23-year-old college dropout who single-handedly caused a multi-billion-dollar Wall Street stock market crash using nothing more sophisticated than a fax machine and a wickedly effective fake press release. In the year 2000, this young mastermind, Mark Jacob, forged a message purportedly from the tech company Emulex. The fake release falsely announced that the CEO had resigned and the company was under serious investigation for accounting irregularities. Emulex stocks plummeted an astonishing 62% in just 15 chaotic minutes. Panic ensued. Coffee was spilled everywhere. Jacob himself made a cool $240,000 in minutes from short selling before inevitably getting caught. His lame excuse? It was just a prank, bro. Wall Street and federal prison emphatically disagreed. 27. For over 40 glorious, face-palming years, the world's sharpest scientific minds got completely, pants-on head bamboozled by Piltdown Man, the ultimate paleontological prank. This celebrated missing link, supposedly unearthed in an English gravel pit, was pure fiction. Picture a medieval human skull brutally fused with an orangutan's jaw, plus some chimpanzee teeth artfully filed down and tossed in like bony confetti. This Frankenstein fossil was triumphantly paraded as proof humanity first arose in jolly old England. Museums built shrines, textbooks sang its praises. The truth, exposed decades later, revealed some still unknown genius trickster had meticulously faked everything, staining bones to look ancient. The scientific community's collective gasp was deafening. It was less evolution, more epic con artistry. 28. Let us now get mechanical, or rather, deceptively so. The Turk was a celebrated 18th century marvel, an automaton chess master that toured Europe and America, frequently defeating its human opponents with uncanny skill. People were utterly amazed, baffled. How could a mere machine, a collection of gears and wood, possibly outwit them at such a complex game? The answer was simple, yet brilliantly concealed. It wasn't a robot at all. It was a human chess master, cleverly hidden inside the large cabinet beneath the chessboard. Crouched uncomfortably in the machine's guts, dressed in black to avoid detection, this hidden operator sweated through countless checkmates. The entire elaborate illusion captivated audiences for decades, even fooling luminaries like Napoleon Bonaparte. Centuries later, we realized the machine possessed no genuine artificial intelligence, just excellent internal posture and a very cramped, highly skilled assistant. 29. Three-card Monte. The street con so classic. It practically has its own museum exhibit in the Scammer Hall of Fame. It's a beautiful ballet of deception, where a fast-talking dealer with hands quicker than a caffeinated squirrel invites you to find the lady, usually the queen, among 3 cards. Seems simple, right? Wrong. So very wrong. The dealer, often working with a crew of shills, fake players who win to lure you in, uses expert sleight of hand, misdirection, and a patter so confusing it could tie your brain in a pretzel. They might even let you win a round or two, just to inflate your ego and loosen your wallet. Then, bam! Your money's gone, vanished faster than a politician's promise. Even people who consider themselves sharp as a tack have been fleeced by this timeless hustle, because it preys not just on greed, but on our very perception of reality. It's less a game of chance and more a psychological magic trick designed to empty your pockets. 30. Back in 1983, the German magazine Stern dropped a bombshell that made historians spill their coffee. They discovered Adolf Hitler's secret diaries. 60 volumes of the Führer's innermost thoughts, his doodles, his grocery lists, probably. The world went bonkers. Media outlets paid millions for serialization rights. This was the historical find of the century. Until, oops, it wasn't. The diaries were, in fact, forged. Spectacularly, comically badly forged by a con artist named Konrad Kujau, who was more skilled at swindling than, say, accurately recreating Nazi-era paper and ink. Experts who initially authenticated them suddenly developed intense fascinations with the floor. The content was so anachronistic and bland, it was like Hitler had dictated his memoirs to a bored teenager. The fallout was immense, a global facepalm moment, proving that if a story is juicy enough, even experts will temporarily misplace their critical thinking skills. 31. In the year 1980, not 1970, a man named Dennis Hope, possessing either audacious vision or an extraordinary misunderstanding of property law, gazed up at the moon and had a thought that would launch 1,000 novelty deeds. Hey, nobody actually owns that thing. So, he did what any enterprising individual with a printer and a surplus of confidence would do. He claimed it. All of it. He diligently filed paperwork with the United Nations, who likely filed it in the circular bin, grandly declared himself the president of the galactic government, and began selling lunar real estate for the bargain price of about $20 an acre. That's right. He built an entire business empire selling chunks of the moon to hopeful Earthlings. People, including celebrities, bought thousands of acres. He even expanded his celestial portfolio to include land on Mars, Venus, and Pluto. No one could legally stop him because, technically, existing space law, written by sensible nerds, didn't quite anticipate interstellar capitalism on this level. 32. The Great Moon Hoax of 1835 was the 19th century equivalent of a sensational, breaking news, aliens confirmed. Headline: a viral sensation before viruses were even understood. The New York Sun newspaper published a series of astonishing articles claiming that eminent astronomers, using a revolutionary new telescope in South Africa, had discovered intelligent life on the moon. And we're not talking about some boring single-celled organisms. No, this was a veritable lunar menagerie featuring man-bats, elegant unicorns, and highly civilized temple-building beavers. Readers across America went absolutely feral with excitement. Churches held solemn discussions about the theological implications. Scientists reportedly nodded thoughtfully, perhaps wondering how they missed this. Few bothered to ask the obvious question. Wait, how exactly did they see all that detail from a telescope on Earth? Newspaper sales exploded. The writers made a fortune. When they finally admitted it was all a brilliantly concocted fiction, the public largely just shrugged and said, "Ah, fair enough then." 33. Before email scammers begged for your bank details to unlock a Nigerian prince's fortune, there was the Spanish prisoner letter, the OG advance fee fraud that's been parting fools from their money since the 16th century. Imagine getting a desperate handwritten plea. A wealthy nobleman, unjustly imprisoned in Spain or some other exotic locale, needs your help. Just a small sum, you understand, to bribe a guard, secure his release, perhaps buy a really good lockpick. In return? Oh, just a massive share of his hidden treasure, and probably the hand of his beautiful, conveniently single daughter. People, high on visions of gold doubloons and damsels, actually sent money. For centuries. The prisoner, of course, was as real as a unicorn riding a unicycle, and the hidden treasure was safely in the con artist's pocket. It's a timeless testament to how a good sob story, a dash of greed, and a sprinkle of romantic fantasy can make even sensible people do incredibly dumb things. Some scams never die. They just update their letterhead. Which of these scams made you question reality the most? Goat testicles, the pet rock, or selling the actual moon? Drop your pick in the comments, or better yet, invent your own ridiculous modern scam. The most absurd one gets pinned. If this video made you laugh, cringe, or say, "No way, that's real," smash that like, hit subscribe, and stick around. Because history isn't just weird, it's getting weirder.